Right off the bat, Justin Peters lays out a definition of what a false teacher and prophet is. He emphasizes behaviors and teachings that are contrary to Orthodox Christian beliefs. Storms then adds the denial of foundational truth without which a person can be saved. And I actually think that was a dirty tactic. There was a disagreement between them on the criteria for labeling someone as a false teacher or a false prophet. What do you guys think about the distinction between false teacher and the agreed upon definition?
Go ahead, Mr. David. Mr. Ninja.
I
The
wanted you
ninja.
to this, man. All right. Well, so when you say the agreed upon definition, I think that they have sort of two different definitions that they give. And so I don't really think that there was really an agreed upon definition. And the reason being because the really dirty tactic that those guys were doing was saying that by saying someone is a false teacher, that by saying that, that means that you are playing God and condemning that person to hell. And so they're not actually talking about whether or not the person is actually false or not false. That's not even what the discussion is even about. What the discussion was about from the charismatic side of the table was whether we are being so hypercritical like a Pharisee that we're just condemning people to hell willy-nilly. And even Sam Storms, sorry, I'm getting off the topic a little bit from the question that you just asked, but Sam Storms famously said on Remnant Radio, these critics, if you part your hair the wrong way, they'll condemn you to hell. And it's like, dude, shut up, dude. No one is saying that. Like, I'm sorry to say that, but like, no one is saying that, right? So it's a straw man. It's a tactic that they're using because they can't actually defend from the Bible the insanity that is coming out of the charismatic movement. They can't actually defend it. And so instead of standing up and saying, this is wrong, and we can admit that it's wrong, and we condemn this practice entirely, instead of doing that, they have to say that anyone who criticizes it at all is like a Pharisee that looks at like the Gentiles, like how a Pharisee would look at the Gentiles as dogs and outcasts and those who cannot be saved and wouldn't, dare go into the house of a tax collector. Like that's what they're trying to make the cessationist, I would say, the actually biblical position. That's what they're trying to make it out to be. Or that's what they're trying to make discernment ministries, which not all of them are even cessationist. Trying to make discernment ministries as a whole something that is, should not be. They don't believe in discerning truth from error. They don't believe that it's possible, which makes it even. And then I'll shut up. I'll be quiet. I'll stop using that word also because I know this is a family show. So, but like they won't even use that word like that in their own life, like in their own. They can't actually be discerning. I mean, though I shouldn't say that because Michael Brown, he calls himself very discerning. He does. He says that about himself. But that's another topic. So anyway, all I'm just saying is to answer your question is that because that is the framework through which the charismatic side of the table is approaching this, because their position is actually indefensible from the Bible, so they just have to attack the discernment people as being Pharisees. There is no agreed upon definition then. They cannot even say that a person is a false teacher. I would love to ask Michael Brown the question. You don't know Muhammad. You've never met Muhammad before. Was Muhammad a false teacher? I mean, all you have is the writings that he put out there. Like, can you not discern it from that? You have to know him personally. Was Joseph Smith a false teacher? Like,
Well,
anyway.
He had no problem calling Luther a false teacher. I mean, he had
Right.
no problem saying he doesn't believe that Luther was saved. And, you know, you see him do that on his show. He weaponizes when anybody says, like, this person could be a false teacher, he just weaponizes it and says, well, you're just trying to say they couldn't be saved. You don't know their heart. And the whole time it seems like it's like, um, you can't say they're a false teacher because you don't know their heart. But I can tell you they're not a false teacher because I know their heart. You know, it's just it's a thought stopping tactic. It's just a way for him to deflect it and not have to deal with it. So what do
I
you think?
know I know Mike Bickle to the depths of his soul.
Right.
Yep. What do you think
Y-
about that, Daniel?
Yeah, what I was going to say, I suppose what I bring to the conversation, excuse me, is that I was saved in the Brownsville revival under Michael Brown. And I've obviously followed him, John Kilpatrick, Steve Hill quite a bit. It's important, I think, in the context of not only this question, but that roundtable, that from the onset, when you have the conversation set to the way that it was, everybody knew with this conversation that these are obviously two quote unquote opposing sides having a dialogue, trying to reach some kind of summation of resolution at the end. Um, Everything is seemingly tactical when Michael Brown and Sam Storms, and you try to go into these conversations unbiased, but everything was seemingly tactical from the onset, even when we started to address the actual definition of what a false teacher was. And immediately Brown specifically enters into this amplification of consequence, right? We go down this side alley of, okay, well, then if we're going to sit here and we're going to supposedly talk about discernment, they took this left field hit where they say, well, then you have to be willing to damn that person to hell. And it's like, whoa, 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 wait a second here. We're just calling out the ability to have discernment amongst brothers, seemingly, and to be able to call someone out as a false teacher. Now you're just going to take it to the next level, which is a complete fear move, batting the ball into Osmond and Peter's side of the court, saying, well, if you're going to call anybody out, i.e., my friends, i.e., Sid Roth, i.e., Benny Hinn, well, then you're also going to have to take it to the next level and condemn these people to hell. Now, I will say that a lot of the people that I look into, that I address, a lot of people, the ninja looks into, they are already in and of themselves putting themselves on that judgment seat. There are a lot of false teachers out there, as Christ forewarned us, that are condemning themselves to hell, that are lead millions of people to hell. But it wasn't the context of defining what the false teacher was from the onset. It wasn't the context of the conversation to begin with. So they come right out of the gate like a hyped up greyhound, just being like, well, you guys better be ready to damn some people to hell, and it was just seemingly completely unnecessary. But in reality, and I think as we go through this conversation and we start to really examine some of the tactics that Brown does specifically in Storms, in regards to what you guys have already addressed, as far as, I knew Mike Bickle to the depths of his soul, and especially when we start to bring scripture into it, you know they are coming from a position of trying to defend people who have damned themselves to hell by their actions, by their teachings. So it was just a really a shady tactic, and kind of uncalled for, especially when the conversation was just getting started. And I had read some articles that were discussing the roundtable, and they had said very much the same thing. They were coming out and right away contorting the actual definition of what a false teacher was.
Yeah, it was totally tactical. I mean, when you listen throughout the whole discussion, I kept thinking about, your word of faith is showing, because they kept bringing up the, well, you don't know their heart. And if you're calling them false teacher, then you're damning them to hell. And the more that they said that, the more I'm like, it's almost as if they were trying to say that by saying someone's a false teacher, you literally can be damning them to hell. And it's like, uh, Peters and Osmond both made the point, like, we're not God, we can't damn someone to hell. That's not even the point. We're just
Right.
saying that they're false teachers. But, if you know the worldview of the New Apostolic Reformation, the Word of Faith, and you understand the background and the people that they are hanging out with and their theology, their theological undergirding, it just starts showing when you see the tactics that they're using, and it's gross, you know. I don't know how some people don't see some of the underlying reasons that they say and do the things that they do.